Hello, my name is Ken Small and I'm an architect in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is video number 2 on permit expediting. If you haven't seen video number 1, please go back and find it and watch that one first because that information will be necessary in order to understand what I'm saying here. This is educational information and is not specific about your project and is general as related to all the building departments in the area and not just a specific one. So if you have a specific project or a specific need, we'd really invite you to come by the office. The initial consultation for commercial projects in our office is always free, and sit down and talk to us about what you're specifically doing. But this information is good background to help you understand the timelines and methodologies for producing projects. And so this is included in our frequently asked questions series for your edification. So talking about permit expediting processes. Most governmental permit expediting processes are set up for larger projects. What happens is that you pay an extra fee to both the building department and the architects and engineers who design the project so that they can all meet together and work out any concerns of the building department plan reviewers in a hurry. For most building departments, accepting a project for expediting is discretionary because they need to find within their own staff, their own employees, someone to accept overtime payments for extra work to get your project reviewed outside their normal queue. Most of the intent in creating the basis for expediting systems in all building departments was done years ago, and it was to take large projects that may have been in the plan review process for months and reduce their timelines to a couple of meetings or even one meeting followed by resubmission of plans. That would result in narrowing the timeline down to 2 or 3 weeks. In the standard expediting that the building department generally wants to use, they want to be asked for the expediting process 2 weeks before you actually submit. So 2 weeks before you submit, you go down there and you say, hey, I'm going to submit this in 2 weeks and we'd like to do an expediting process. And depending on the building permit, the building department, they may ask to see what you have so far, or they may just say, okay, so noted, and put it in the computer. And then when you get down there and you actually submit, that's when you find out if you've been accepted for the expedited process. So the way that process would work is that they intake it, they have a little time to review it. Depending on the project size, it's hard to say what a little time is, but at least a few days. And then you have an initial sit-down meeting between everybody involved, perhaps the architect, the mechanical engineer, structural engineer, civil engineer, any other engineers, maybe the contractor, one person from each review area in the building department. So you're talking about a meeting of maybe anywhere from 8 to 12 to 14 people. They all sit down, talk about whatever the concerns are. The architects and engineers that worked on the project go back to the office and add whatever additional notes there are or make any changes that the building department is asked for. And then often there's a second meeting where they go through line at a time. Here's what you asked, here's what I did. Is this okay? And then after that second meeting, the building department staff again has a few days, and then they'll usually let the architect and his consultants know one by one. The electrical reviewer will let the electrical engineer know that he's cleared comments, and so on until they're all cleared. And then the building department has the last few days to do their last crossing of T's and dotting of I's, and then your contractor can go down and pull his permit. So you can see from the way those processors were set up that they're not really intended to work on small projects like a tenant improvement for a a 2,500 square foot office or something like that. So this is generally considered to be the expediting process that the building department does. And it's very, very helpful if you have a project that's suitable for it. But if you don't, then most building departments don't have a small project expediting process. And so this leads us to something that the building department doesn't accept, but permit processing people do, and that's the most common type of permit processing. And that means that if the building department is not willing to accept the project for expedited permit processing, then some permit expediters will try to go back over and over again until they hit the right plan reviewer, somebody who's a little bit more lenient or not as busy or more cooperative, or maybe go during a slower time of week and see if they can get it approved over the counter, whereas over the counter is normally limited to 2 or 3 trades, depending on what jurisdiction you're in. Everything is discretionary on the part of the building department plan reviewers, so they could decide to take in a small office tenant improvement and just review it over the counter if you're just doing some minor work or what have you. And so the permit expeditors will go down over and over again and try to make that happen. If they can't get that to work, then they'll go ahead and let the building department intake it in the normal queue, and then they'll try to find out who each of the reviewers are going to be to review the various areas, and then basically beg them to move it along. And that also has a pretty good degree of success sometimes, not often. And the deficiency in it is that you're paying the expediter to expedite whether it works or not. And it may take exactly the same amount of time as a normal queue does. Sometimes a particular reviewer that you need is just on vacation and it's laying on his or her desk, and there's just no way to expedite it. No matter whether you claim some kind of special relationship with building officials or whatever, just can't be done. On the other hand, I can tell you that in the past couple of months, we were able to walk a plan right through in 2 days, not over the counter, but through the normal queue, and getting some cooperation from the staff at the building department. Kind of surprised ourselves that it went right through in 2 days. And it was just a matter of asking nicely, and they weren't too busy, and came at the right time. And the person that went on behalf of my firm was extraordinarily polite, and could you just help us out with this? There's a reason why, blah, blah, blah. And so, boom, it went through. But that's not a official building department sanctioned program normally. One important aspect of having an architect do your permit expediting that most people don't think of, but it is extremely important in Vegas. In the case of a lot of larger companies or franchises, they may have an architect that's officing in who knows where, Ohio, Kentucky, Texas, you name it, and he is legitimately licensed in Nevada and should be capable of performing architectural work in Nevada without any question, but he's just not been exposed to this particular jurisdiction in the local customs. So we can look at his drawings before we take him down there and make a few comments. Hey, the format we use for the code analysis is this, or normally we expect to find this piece of information and you don't have it. And then from our pre-review prior to taking it down to the building department, we may be able to cut off 1 or 2 rounds of comments, and each one of those rounds is usually 2 weeks. So we take a look at it. We are only acting as the expediter. We're not acting as the architect of record, who is somebody else. We see the architect of record has done something, like they do in California or whatever, and then we say, hey, so when you send us the final set of plans, then use this format or put this particular detail in there regarding this issue. And then we know that's one less complicated issue that will have to be addressed in the review process. So by doing that, even if the building department isn't doing anything faster, we're able to cut down time on that. So how much does it cost? Well, everybody that does permit expediting charges hourly, and our hourly rates aren't as much as lawyers, although some lawyers do permit expediting, and I'm sure they're well worth it at $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, up to $2,000 an hour. We just do it at regular architects' hourly rates, and and most architects that do that do the same thing. And I'm not going to tell you the amount because this video will hopefully sit on YouTube being watched longer than we stay at the same rate. But our rates are affordable, normal rates. And what you need to compare this with is if you're making monthly mortgage payments, if you're making monthly rent payments, if your lease is only so many years long. Say it's costing you $3,000 a month rent for the space, or you need to get out of your existing space and your lease is up and your landlord is charging you a premium because you want to go month to month. Those hourly rate costs will compare very favorably with the savings in not paying rent for the space before you're able to use it, or not having to pay a premium to your old landlord because you couldn't move out on time. Obviously, if you can plan ahead and allow enough time, and when you're negotiating your lease, allow enough time for the whole drawing and design and construction process to be done before the rent starts, that's the best case scenario, and not pay for expediting. But often it just doesn't turn out that way, and so it's well worth it. For those of you who are designing restaurants and you need to be in time for the holiday banquet season, or you're designing retail shops and you need to be open in time for the Christmas shopping season, it's well worth it for you because, as you know, this is the time of year when you make your money, and it may not matter much whether you're open on January 30th or February 30th, but if it's a question of being open on October 30th versus November 30th, that's going to make a difference to your bottom line annually. And so look at it that way. And again, not that it's recommended to arrange your timeline around that kind of process, but it can be done, and it can be very, very dramatic how much time it saves. So now I've talked about the standard process for doing a project without expediting and the standard expediting processes. And next I'm going to talk about two forms of expediting that are new to the Valley here in Las Vegas area. One is the Clark County Permit Now program, and the other one is the North Las Vegas Self-Certification program. And either one of those programs can get your job through dramatically fast. There are some upsides and downsides to them, and we'll talk about that during the next video. My name is Ken Small, and I'm with SSA Architecture in Las Vegas, Nevada. Our telephone number is 702-873-1718. I hope that you will click to like our video down below and share it with your friends on Facebook or tweet it or what have you. And if you don't know how to do any of that, like us on Yelp or give us a call and hire us to be your architect. Ultimately, that, of course, is the goal. So if you enjoyed this video, please do share it with others. And thank you very much for taking your time to watch it. My name is Ken Small. Ken Small. Ken Small.